Hi everyone, welcome back to Newfound Happy Hour. This is Sarah, and before we get started with part 2 of this episode of my first trimester truths, I wanted to let everyone know about an event that's happening here in St. John's. I've talked a bit before about the Taylor Swift dance parties, and a friend of mine is actually throwing something similar. It's a Hilary Duff dance party that is on April 17th at Oish. I think that's how that bar is pronounced. If you live in St. John's, I feel like a lot of us pronounce it differently, but that's happening on April 17th. You can search for that and buy tickets on Eventbrite. My pregnant self will be there. But as for this episode, this is part 2 of everything I learned in the first trimester. The first part was talking about all the appointments that I had in the first trimester. And this episode, I'm going to go over some of the symptoms that I had and everything I purchased between weeks, well, I guess 4 or 5 when I found out, up until week 12 or 13. Hopefully these episodes are helpful if you're pregnant or you might become pregnant. These are all the things that I wish someone had have told me, and that's what this podcast is all about. Best friend energy and big sister advice. So hopefully it helps some people, and we'll get started. And I did want to talk about, too, all of the symptoms and all of the things that I bought. I feel like as soon as you become pregnant and you start searching things, your whole feed becomes birth, pregnancy, babies, and babies don't need that much. I remember being there, like my mom used to watch my niece, and when she was first born, my brother and my sister-in-law lived with us for a little bit, so like I was around her all the time. And there's so many things that people tell you need to buy, and even after having some friends now who've had kids, they're like, yeah, you don't really need all of this stuff. So same thing as like throughout my pregnancy, like I didn't want to buy a bunch of maternity clothes. I don't want to buy a lot of things that I'll only use temporarily. If there is things I'm buying, I want them to be things that I can just resell or give to people. So yeah, but I didn't know, I also didn't know the things that I would need or the things to buy. So this is all the things that I bought and kind of all the symptoms that I had. So the first is obviously pregnancy tests. I had the ovary pregnancy test, and if you've seen my episode about coming off birth control a couple years ago, I was talking about those tests and the ovulation strips. So I've always just kept those on hand, and I haven't had to use them much, so I had those ready. So I already had those, but then once I was seeing some really faint lines on those pregnancy tests, I was like, okay, we need to get a digital one because that'll tell you like how far along you are. And it's a little more reassuring than just like a very faint line. So I use the clear blue ones. They're pretty expensive. I wish there was a better alternative, but I don't think there's any other digital ones or nothing that's like readily available in the pharmacies near where I am, at least. But one thing I did learn about the clear blue test is that they measure the amount of HCG in your system. So if you can't get a blood test to measure the HCG in your system, if you keep taking those tests every week, it should change to like 1 to 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 to 3, 3 plus. If it's not, like if your tests are just staying at 1 to 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, that means that your levels aren't rising. So that was something that I learned that might help somebody. And then the first thing I got, like as soon as I knew that I was pregnant, was prenatals. I gave the actual pills, like the actual prenatals, to someone else I know who's pregnant because they did not agree with my system. I'll get into that. But it comes with, this is the, I don't even know the brand, Centrum. But these are the DHA ones, and then it also comes with a bottle of the prenatal vitamins. So I took these with these gummy prenatals because, like I said, the first ones, like the Centrum ones, have iron in it, and that doesn't agree with a lot of people. A few of my aunts told me that they had issues with any prenatals with iron, so I think that just runs in the family. So I was using these First Response prenatal gummies. I had them all, and then when I ran out of those, I got the, I don't have the mommy. It's a bigger bottle, but similar gummies, just a different kind. And then because of my stomach issues, I'm going to prepare you. And again, this is like TMI, but if I had a little sister going through this, I would have to tell her because it's so common. I didn't think that I would get certain symptoms until later. So like I knew that there would be bloating. I just thought that it would be when I was further along. I knew that there would be discomfort. I knew that constipation was a thing. I knew that like all of the things would happen. I didn't realize that it was so soon. But when I was like 5 or 6 weeks, and I know that taking the prenatals didn't help, and the Christmas food and junk that I was eating probably didn't help. But I had a really rough 2 weeks, and I won't go into it. But with pregnancy constipation, there are things that you can take, and one of them is milk of magnesia, this Phillips stuff. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, or maybe I would actually. But the sensation that you get after taking this is not fun. Your stomach is gurgling for a while, but it does the job. So after that, I started eating a lot more fiber. I added these. I don't take them every day, like every other day, and I've been fine ever since. These are the Restorelax fiber gummies. Most anyone who I've seen, like any healthcare professional, said that Restorelax is a good brand for when you have those issues during pregnancy. So I would say just have those on hand just in case, because when you're up at 2 a.m. with a bad belly, it is not fun. So you're welcome. And then after that, the only real symptoms I had and the only things that I was like actively searching for and buying were fruit and things with fiber and cereal. And I kind of found that any food that I wanted was like food that I liked when I was a kid. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just like simple foods, but Eggo waffles or toaster strudels or like yogurt and fruit. I rarely have yogurt as an adult. Like Greek yogurt I'll have in place of sour cream, but I rarely would have like fruit and yogurt. I have that every other day or every day in the first trimester. So that was definitely something that I had to stock up on. And protein and fiber, like it's just so important. Just stock up early and start eating it early is what I would say. Also, going back to my episode about getting off birth control, I had a lot of body acne and I had a lot of, not like acne, but my scalp was really textured. I had little bumps all along my hairline and my neck. And I found that all of that came back in the first trimester. So the same types of like body wash and moisturizer, all those things that I used helped. But I mean, there's only so much you can do. Like your hormones are out of whack and there's nothing really stopping that. So that was just something I kind of had to deal with. I was already taking iron and B12. So I would take the prenatals in the night and then the iron and B12 in the mornings. And I used to be low iron, but none of my pregnancy blood work was low iron. So I just kept taking that and it's been fine. Not something I bought, but something I did get was the Bump app. So that's a pregnancy app. It'll tell you like what week you are and all the symptoms and what's happening with your baby and everything like that. It's very knowledgeable with everything that's going on. And it's so funny. I feel like I have a textbook pregnancy. Like it'll say one week you might notice like your nose is really dry and you're getting nosebleeds. And that week I will have a nosebleed. And it's so weird. It's very spot on. And I feel like all my symptoms are very spot on to what's happening that specific week. And then I wasn't too worried about stretch marks or anything yet, but I did want to get a good moisturizer. And the Neutrogena, I forget the name of it. It's like the gel moisturizer. I had it for my face. And so I bought the body one. And I also bought, I'll put a picture of both of them here. But I saw someone using them on TikTok and said that they had no stretch marks. I know that stretch marks are genetic for the most part, but I do want to do everything I can to prevent them. And I also found that like my belly and my boobs feel itchy because like they're growing and the skin is stretching. And so I wanted a good moisturizer. I would recommend that Neutrogena one. I also got bio oil. I haven't been using that too regularly, like once a week or something. But I will move on to using that like every day, maybe towards the end of my second trimester, and definitely every day in the third trimester. So trying to stay real moisturized. And then also this La Roche-Posay cream, I'll put a picture of that there too. That's good specifically with the itchiness. I saw a few videos with dermatologists recommending it. So, and that is like pretty soothing. So those are the only things I got for moisturizers. I got 2 good sports bras. I knew I would need bigger ones than what I had. A lot of what I had were just from when I was smaller. And I knew I would need better for this time in my life. So I got 2 sports bras. I also got a pair of underwear that matched so that I could take my Polaroid pictures every month or every 4 weeks. And that's something else that I bought was a Polaroid. I got it from someone on Marketplace. She had like the film and a magnet and the actual camera. So I got that. I bought the Harmony NIPT test, so I ordered that online. That was probably the most costly thing that I've bought so far. I also got 2 new pairs of pajamas. They're maternity ones. They're super comfy. I knew that I would want them for whenever I started to feel bigger. So I've been living in both of those, and one is a t-shirt and shorts pair. So that'll be good because I am supposed to give birth in the summer. My friend Leslie was like, get a pregnancy pillow as soon as you can. Don't wait until you're too big and uncomfortable. Like, just get one now. And I agree. I think they're like $50 on Amazon. I got one. I can probably just resell it when I'm done with it. You can take the cover off and wash it and everything. So definitely like that. I have been having back pain. I've also had sciatica. I've kind of always had that on and off. Like, I notice if I'm standing up too long, my left leg, like my left thigh, will kind of go numb. But normally if I move, it goes away. But in pregnancy, it has not. It has kind of just gotten worse where if I'm lying a certain way or I'm sitting or standing, I get that sensation. So that's not fun. I've been trying to do yoga and walk, and I did get a massage. That's not really a first trimester appointment. That would be a second one because I just had that the other day. But yeah, yes to a pregnancy pillow. That will help with the back pain. I also got this big water bottle. It was on sale at Chapters and it holds like over a liter of water. I knew that I wasn't drinking enough water, and I find having the handle and the straw, like, it's easier for me to drink water more frequently. So that was a good purchase. I was also thinking for postpartum and breastfeeding and everything that will be good to just have next to me. And then the last thing I got was a hypnobirthing book. I'll put that here. I don't remember the author's name, but I've read a little bit of it so far. I'll probably just read a bit here and there throughout my pregnancy. But so far I would recommend it. It sounds like it would be super hippie, but it's not. It's like if you're going to give birth at home or a birth center or a hospital, if you're going to have a non-medicated or, planned C-section, emergency C-section, anything, it just gives tips for all of those and like knowing your different options in each scenario and knowing the different coping mechanisms and breathing techniques and also just knowing what's happening with your body. I find a lot of people, and I don't blame them for this, but a lot of people are just like, I don't want to know. I just want to go in and someone tell me what to do. But I prefer the approach of like, I want to know everything and I want to go in and know like my plan for any given scenario. Not that I'm going to go in with like, this is my specific plan. I'll be very open-minded, but I do want to, like, I want to know what's happening with my body. And unfortunately, I've had friends who didn't really look into things. And then when they get in the situation, they panic and they don't know the better options, or they have a doctor tell them that they have to do something when they really didn't. I've had friends who were offered certain things in birth and others who weren't, and they didn't know that those options were available to them. So I think that book will really help with knowing all of that, along with my doula. I'm probably over-prepared in some ways, but I would much rather be that than be unprepared. So yeah, that's pretty much all my appointments and symptoms and things that I bought in my first trimester. I haven't really had any, aside from the hell that was the first trimester, like I felt hungover every day and that was the most miserable time of my life. I am not kidding. It felt never ending. First trimester during January, when January feels so long already, is criminal. However, I'm happy that I went through it during a month where not much happens. So if I had have been like that in July, I think I would have been beside myself, really. But aside from that, like, I feel pretty good. I don't feel like I'm missing out on like my previous life. I feel like I'm doing the same things I've always done. I'm doing a lot more of it sober. But that's fine. Everything has been great in that regard. And like, we are preparing to move into our new house, hopefully in a couple months. And the only thing I was really struggling with towards the end of the first trimester was just waiting to make sure that everything was okay. You definitely feel a little bit safer out of the first trimester. But again, like, I have a date for my 20-week ultrasound and I'm nervous for that. And I'm just like, aware of everything that could go wrong with that appointment. So, like, you're always waiting for the next milestone. Um, but that's just like parenting and childbirth and all of it. Like, you're just waiting for the next thing that could potentially go wrong, I guess. I realized that I need to take a step back from work. I was someone who would log on early or stay on late or work over the weekend, and I just haven't been able to do that. I've been so tired and I've been busy with actual life things, so that was a little bit hard for me. Having baby brain has been a little bit hard, like just feeling slower. um, I still wake up in the middle of the night to eat or to pee. It's gotten better, but like January was really bad. I would wake up at 2 a.m. starving, and then it would be hard to get back to sleep, and then I would wake up at 6 a.m. starving, and I would keep snacks by my bed, but like it was hard. It was very hard. My heart goes out to anyone who has sickness and like vomiting or anything all through pregnancy. I never did throw up, but I always felt like I could, and it was not fun. I haven't bought any other clothes. I really just want to buy like secondhand maternity clothes to get me through my pregnancy. I think I can just buy regular clothes for most things and not specific maternity clothes to get me through. It's also going to be summer when I'm at my biggest, so I'll just live in shorts and baggy t-shirts, and I think that'll be okay. I'm living in sweatpants right now. I think it was about 11-ish weeks that like my jeans were starting to get tight, and you almost have imposter syndrome. Like, I would look at my belly and be like, is this a bump? But then I would look at a picture of like before I found out I was pregnant, and I'm like, oh yeah, there is a difference. But you're almost like, you almost have imposter syndrome or something. It's weird. But I'm definitely noticing a bump now. I feel like every week I just notice it more and more. And I'm really excited. I feel a lot better in the second trimester. I'll go through all that in another episode. If there's anything you want me to cover or things that you want to know or feedback, let me know. I think every second episode of this season 5 of my podcast is going to be relating to my pregnancy and like things that I'm learning. And then every other episode will be with my guests. So you can check out the last episode. That was with Hannah from Spark Your Growth, talking about counseling and therapy and all of that. And my next episode is going to be with Emily Bland. There's so much that I can talk to her about, but we're still kind of narrowing it down because she is a very multifaceted woman. So stay tuned for that in 2 weeks. And thanks for listening. I hope this helped anyone, especially if you are pregnant and especially if you don't have a family doctor. Ask me any questions or send feedback. Have a good weekend. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Like I said, my next bi-weekly episode is with Emily Bland. So we're going to be talking to her about all of her jobs and her involvement with SucSeed and everything like that. So stay tuned for that. I'm also going to continue documenting my pregnancy journey. It's been a good idea to write it all down because you forget, like, everything changes so fast from week to week and new symptoms replace older ones, and it is a journey, and I'm learning a lot. So I've also had people reach out and say that it was helpful listening to this episode or the first one about finding out that I was pregnant. So we can all learn together. You can also find me on social media at Newfound Happy Hour, and all episodes are on YouTube. Most of the recent ones are in video, so you can check that out as well.